Afternoon Live. Our next guest has tips on how to harness that nervous energy and high anxiety and live a more productive and fulfilling life. We welcome the author of Nervous Energy. Dr. Chloe Carmichael is with us. Dr. Chloe, good to have you on the show.
Hi, thank you for having me. It's great to be with you.
Well, it's interesting, because at least when you hear the word harness, the nervous energy, sometimes that nervous energy you could think of as a bad thing. But here we're talking about it and why it's so productive.
Exactly. So sometimes we have a tendency to automatically assume anxiety equals bad. Whereas actually the truth is that Mother Nature gives us a little extra zing, a little extra boost, what I like to call nervous energy, when we do realize that it's time to bring our A game. The trick is just to know how to handle it.
So how do you recognize nervous energy versus the bad anxiety?
Well, for a lot of people, it's going to be, that butterflies in their stomach, or even a little bit of racing palms, or even what some people think of as a problem, which is that maybe their mind is going blank, right? But what that actually oftentimes is the helpful sign that anxiety is helping to put on the blinders and black out your awareness of everything else except for what matters. So the key is just to do that preparation and make sure that you have in front of yourself, even if it's like an actual list of exactly what you need to be doing and exactly what you need to be focusing on, so you make sure you put that burst of focus to good use.
And you talk about these lists being there's an emotional short list, a mental short list. Tell me about these lists.
Sure. So the to-do list with emotions is a really good one for high-functioning people. That's my specialty, is high-performing people, which I'm sure is a lot of people in your audience who may not even know that they're high-performing people. But if you can set an alarm clock and get somewhere on time, odds are you're probably actually a higher-functioning person than you know. So what we do with that to-do list with emotions is we look at the to-do list and we think about what are the emotions that are coming up with this thing on my list. For example, I had a client who just was procrastinating around grocery shopping for no apparent reason until he really thought about it, and the emotion coming up was actually loneliness because he'd recently been through a divorce. So the next step is that empowers you to then do some good self-care. So he was able to just plan for a good catch-up friendly phone call with a good friend during grocery shopping. And then he solved the problem of loneliness that grocery shopping was bringing up for him.
Gosh, so to talk about stress, what are the easiest ways you feel like to cope with people, especially who are those high-performing people who have that anxiety, who have that nervous energy, to cope with the stress?
Sure. Well, first of all, we have to recognize that stress is a normal and natural thing. We have a tendency sometimes to just think, well, like we're going to get stressed about stress because we're stressed and we assume that's bad. Whereas actually stress oftentimes just means that we're actually just growing, right? And so what we can do in those situations is, you mentioned that mental short list, right? So we can sometimes get stressed because we have something in our head that we just cannot get rid of, even if we've already done everything about it that we're supposed to do, but our mind is like a dog with a bone around that thing. So that's when the mental short list comes in. So what we do is we give ourselves 5 really good alternative topics to think about, and we plan them out. So it could be getting a jump start on your holiday shopping. It could be thinking about your weekend menu, or catching up with certain particular friends that you always mean to catch up with but aren't thinking of it in those particular moments. And then when the old topic rears its head and it's calling your name to ruminate on it, instead of taking the bait, you go ahead and pivot onto your new mental short list instead.
Where do you store this mental short list? Is it just mental? Is it in your head? Do you recommend having it out visually for you?
It is so important to have it on paper, for the same reason that we can all think of a good healthy snack, right, in our calm state of mind. But if we're having a strong urge for a big bag of junk food, there's nothing like a fridge full of easy pre-cut snacks to make it super easy to just go for the healthy stuff. In the same way, I like people to keep a short list of 3 or 4, or ideally 5, really good, healthy, productive, constructive things to think about. Keep the list in your wallet, keep it as a screensaver on your phone. It sounds really basic, but when the thought monster is calling your name, having things literally spelled out for you will make it so much easier.
Okay, one last good tip. We just have a minute left on how to harness that good energy.
Sure. One I really like is called worry time. So in that one, what we do is we just plan a time in our calendar that we're actually going to worry. And then whenever we get pinged throughout the day with like, oh, gee, should I redo my roof? Like, should I check up on my insurance? Like all these random things we think of, we just put them into our calendar event for worry time. And that way our mind can let go of them when we're just supposed to be living our lives, and we can fully focus on them when the time is right.
I love that. So you actually put it in your calendar. This is my worry time, and then just make notes of what you're going to worry about. That's brilliant.
Boundaries. Yes.
So great. Thank you so much, Doctor.
So great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Fantastic tips, and we'll have more information about Dr. Chloe and her book on our website at KATU.com. Don't go away. Just a short break. We'll be right back.